Good evening, Chair. Calls to order public hearings for Resolution 04023. Council, we have Mr. Larry Richardson from the administration with us tonight to speak to us about enterprise zone tax credit.
Mr. President, members of the council, thank you all very much. Lawrence A. Richardson, Jr. on behalf of Harford County. Here tonight, there are two resolutions before you this evening. One, Resolution 040-23, an enterprise zone tax credit for 2007 Cedar Drive in Edgewood. The other resolution is 041-23, enterprise zone tax credit 755 Chelsea Road in the Aberdeen Perryman area. These resolutions are part of a process being set forth by both county and state law for the purpose to attract, retain, and encourage commercial development in economically distressed areas of the state in partnership with political subdivisions by incentivizing capital investment and job creation through real property and income tax credits. So, as it's put forward, that's Section 5702A, the Economic Development Article of the Maryland Annotated Code. So this is a state-driven matter that we're dealing with. We are not focusing on the income tax credits. Our purpose here is the real property tax credits. General criteria for qualification for businesses employing 10 or fewer full-time equivalent employees, there has to be at least $100,000 in capital investment above the base level. For businesses employing 11 or more employees, that number becomes $125,000. There's additional criteria as set forth by the state. If the primary business activity is conducted on the properties, is in the general public interest, and consistent with any of the following categories. It lists 9 different areas, which includes research development, office manufacturing, fabrication and assembly, warehousing and distribution, tourism activities, and a number of others. I can get you that full list if you need it. Part of the process, too, under state law, it also makes note that state shall remit to each county or municipal corporation an amount equal to 1/2 of the funds that would have been collected if the property tax credit under this section had not been granted. So the county does get a bit of a rebate back from the state in this process. Okay, this program is not a program that's subject to subjective criteria or action. For all intents and purposes, the county simply serves as a conduit for the applying entity to the state, who is the ultimate authority in this application process. And that's set forth in the tax property article of the Maryland Annotated Code. It notes the governing body of a county or of a municipal corporation shall grant a tax credit under this section against the property tax imposed on the eligible assessment of qualified property. So Harford County, under Harford County Code, we have additional safeguards set up. Additional provisions are presented basically to include the formation of a committee, which will consist of the Director of Economic Development, the Treasurer, and the County Council member who represents the council district in which majority of the properties in the enterprise zone are located, who shall review the application and determine whether the property qualifies as a tax credit. If the committee finds that the property qualifies for the tax credit, it shall forward its findings to the county council, which by resolution shall approve the owner's application if it finds that the property qualifies for the credit. That's Chapter 123, the Finance Taxation section of the Code, Section 123-43.8, Enterprise Zone Tax Credits. So that's right out of our county code. On 14 November, the Director of our Office of Economic Development, Karen Holt, Robert Sandless, Harford County Treasurer, Councilmember Dion Guthrie, District A, and Councilmember Jacob Bennett, District F, both of whom have properties that are before you tonight, met as a committee pursuant this to discuss the matter. Following discussion, a vote was taken. At that time, Ms. Holt, Mr. Sandless, and Councilmember Guthrie voted to approve. Councilmember Bennett had abstained at the time because he had some additional questions that we needed to get answered for him. Mr. Sandless provided that additional information to the council member on the 15th of November. And on November 16th, following review by that additional information, Councilmember Bennett noted his affirmation of the vote, so he cast the vote in favor as well. We'll just note that finally it should be noted that since at least 2013, this is not a new process. Since 2013, there have been at least 47 applications for this credit that have been reviewed, processed, and forwarded to the state. So all the way from 2013 up until 2022. There have been 47 of these that have been approved by this council and moved to the Senate. With that in mind, we respectfully request your approval of Resolution 04023 and 04123 as they are before you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, thank you for being here tonight. I would like just to clarify, though, because we did reach out to the county auditor to see if there were any record of previously having committee meetings held, any minutes, any record of it being on anybody's calendar. And what we heard back from the Office of Economic Development is there were no such records of the committee being held prior to this. We made sure to set a new standard in having minutes taken, having a formal vote that could be kept for record and then referenced tonight. I think all that is very important in setting the standard for how the law should be followed here in the county. So I appreciate that we took the time to do that and do that the right way, but I did just want to publicly clarify that that process had not been followed in the past by former administrations.
And council member, I can tell you again, this is my first foray into this, so I can't speak for what happened in the past. But we are more than happy to definitely adhere to the county rules.
Yep, and I appreciate that. The other thing that we spoke about during that meeting, and I'm just still hoping to get this for, I think for the good of all of us as we consider enterprise zones in the future, is, we talked about estimates of how this would help grow our tax base. But, now that the enterprise zone has been around for a good while in Harford County, it would be good to see some actuals compared to previous estimates. So properties that have been in the enterprise zone for several years, if what, was presented by the Office of Economic Development and the county treasurer holds up to be true over time, if it really is a positive net gain for the county in revenue, or is it not? So I think that's a conversation that would be good to have on record of long-term, does it do what we think it's going to do as far as supporting the county? So that's just to state that publicly. I'd like to see that information, to see that in a document to compare, what was the estimate at the time of the property was added and what was the end result years later.
I very much appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Guthrie?
Yeah, I want to thank you for your efforts going forward with these property tax, particularly the one with in Edgewood on the copper mine athletic fields. I think without question, that's an area over 35 acres that they've developed. They've got, from the last numbers I've got, they've got over $12 million they're self-invested. They expect it to really turn over big time starting in the spring of this year, this coming year. Their estimates, when they get all 8 of these fields, they're just about done as far as the construction is concerned. When they get fully operational, they're talking like 12,000 people a weekend. That's their numbers, not mine. I don't know what we're going to do with all those people and how we're going to feed them all, because they're going to be looking for 12,000 people got to eat somewhere, and I'm sure that when it gets going, that investment and people are going to be looking about opening more restaurants and more hotels, because I don't think we're going to have enough. But to give them a tax credit for the investment they've made is certainly well worth the investment, and I'm sure it's going to reap big dollars in the future. All these people coming and investing and eating and staying in hotels and giving us all that hotel tax that we are beating up and down around the bushes right now. So with that, this certainly has my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie, and I do want to recognize Mr. Jacobs in the audience. So thank you for being here this evening. Mr. Penman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Richardson, thank you for your presentation. I fully support the enterprise zones. I think if we can do anything to attract businesses or tourism to our community, we should do that. I do find it ironic, though, that one of these resolutions for the enterprise zones is in the Perryman Peninsula, Chelsea Road, to a point where the county had legislation introduced and passed to limit commercial uses in the Perryman Peninsula, to reduce the size and the footprint of these businesses. And now we're passing legislation, which I support, for enterprise zones to bring businesses down on the Perryman Peninsula. And if I might remember, this legislation that was introduced didn't even originally grandfather everybody in. So all these businesses wouldn't have been grandfathered in and would have been on-conforming uses. But we did pass that amendment to pass them. So I support this. I just find it ironic that we're passing legislation or a resolution to incentivize it, which I support, when on the other hand, just a few months ago, we didn't. So, thank you.
I can note for the record, though, that the Chelsea Road address is one that was in fact in place prior to the passage of the legislation you're referring to. So this is grandfathered into
Right.
law.
And I understand that this is state-driven. I get that, and I support it, but just want to put that on record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Mr. Riley?
So, Mr. Richardson, I understand the copper mine and the enterprise zone for Cedar Drive. I'm still not sure about the reasoning behind Aberdeen. If maybe you can elaborate on why they deserve an enterprise zone.
Well, as we've noted, the criteria are pretty cut and dry. There's
Okay.
nothing subjective on our
Can you
part.
explain that for the audience?
Now, for the Chelsea Road property, they have a projected job creation of 232 full-time and part-time employees. Their investment right now, the capital investment, is at least $20 million at this point.
And who's they?
FRP 801 Chelsea LLC, that is the owner of that property. So under state regulations, they meet that criteria. As I said, then we're not allowed to be subjective on this. If you meet A, B, C, you dot your i's, you cross your t's, that falls under the rules of the state. That goes to the state, and the state can make that decision to grant the tax credit.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Mr. Janserdown?
Larry, what do they actually make there? What do they build? What do they make? You told us the name of the organization. Do you know what that facility actually does? I think maybe Mr. Riley, Councilman Riley, was looking for a little bit of detail. They've got these employees, but what do they do there? Do you know?
And off the top of my head, no, I don't, but I can find out and let you know.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jacob, I know.
Mr. Bennett?
Well, that was a part of that conversation, because the answer is we don't know what's going to be at that property yet. And we did ask, that was one of my questions for for Robbie Sandless was, if this is manufacturing, how would that change our expected revenues versus, the cost of giving the tax credit? If this was, because the original application was for warehousing, but, obviously the goal of the county is not looking for warehousing, it's looking for manufacturing. So how would that change the number of potential jobs? How would that change, the revenue brought in from the property, the potential amount of homeowners from the property, the average income level of the people who would work at the property? And that was a big point of conversation during that meeting. But we were told to treat the application as is under warehousing, knowing that it could very well be manufacturing, not warehousing going there.
And again, let me just drift back to my earlier reference, section 9103H of tax credit enterprise zone state budget under the tax property article, the Maryland Code. Among the criteria that they indicate, additional criteria, I'll give you the full list of what they were. Research and development, offices, manufacturing, fabrication, and assembly, warehousing and distribution, services excluding mini storage and self-storage facilities, retail employing 5 or more persons and excluding convenience stores, gasoline stations, and fast food establishments, tourism activities, hospitality services, professional or personal commercial services. So under state law, any of those activities, you qualify.
It's just when we talk about estimated employees, that estimation changes a lot depending on the industry that ends up going at that property. So I was just clarifying that there is no understanding that such and such company will be on that land next year.
But again, also too, but given those criteria, as well as the criteria with the capital investment, having met both of those, they qualify under state law.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Riley?
We understand they qualify under state law, but you're coming to us for approval, and what we're asking is, what are they going to be doing there? So if you could find that out before we actually vote, I think that would help all of us on the dais.
Okay, the only thing, as I said, the only thing I would make note is that just as both state law and as the Harford County Code reads, we're not in a position necessarily to pick and choose who we wish.
That's not what he's asking. He's asking you to clarify
But yeah, I will.
what they do.
I will actually, when we break from here, I will send out some messages and I will get an answer for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone, Mr. Guthrie?
Just go ahead, isn't anyone here from that organization to answer any questions?
I don't believe so, sir, no.
That don't make sense.
I know Mr. Jacobs from Copper Mine is here.
Right there. There he is, Alec. He's always there. He's always very available. Give him credit. Did you take care of that lady's backyard for me?
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Anyone else? Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up?
We do, Mr. President. We have 6 this evening.
Want to go ahead and call your first speaker?
For Resolution 040-23.
Either one, yes.
Chuck Mezan.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Chuck Mezan, 1812 Park Beach Drive, Aberdeen, Maryland. I'm here to support Resolution 4023, Enterprise Zone Tax Credit for 2007 Cedar Lane, Edgewood. Maryland adopted Enterprise Zone in 1982 to help stimulate well-paying jobs in older industrial areas. The program was designed to help address dormant and declining retail development, spurring redevelopment of existing buildings, and attracting land for new tenants into these areas. The new Copper Mine Youth Sports Complex is a shining example of this type of economic development. The property was previously military apartments developed back in the 50s and was abandoned by the military in 1994. The county purchased the property in 2000 and cleaned up the site for redevelopment. Businesses like Copper Mine Athletic Fields are the type of properties and businesses the Enterprise Zone was intended to attract. Washington Court Partners LLC has made a large investment to redevelop property in this community, which will benefit the local Edgewood area by providing local jobs, attracting tourism via weekend tournaments, and providing valuable recreational space that can be rented and used by local youth and adult organizations. Being a 12-year soccer coach for youth sports, I realize how valuable these fields are for communities. This development fosters sustainable and healthy communities while encouraging economic growth and job creation in suitable areas. Unfortunately, over the years, Harford County has misused this Enterprise Zone program and placed large, previously undeveloped, dense woodland acreages like Aberdeen Woods and extensive open farmland like Mitchell Farm into these enterprise zones. These undeveloped and environmentally sensitive areas should not be used to promote the concreting of land where an infrastructure is not present and then grant the landowner a tax credit for destroying the open space. So please take a good look at other properties that are in the enterprise zone in Harford County and realize what a good project is and what it means when it's in the enterprise zone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lee Maddox, followed by Ken Shannon.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. Lee Maddox, 1700 Church Point Court, Perryman. I am here to discuss why we must oppose resolution number 41-23. This resolution, though fiscally enticing, overlooks the greater value of our green spaces, farms, and forests. Resolution number 41-23 offers tax credits for the development at 755 Chelsea Road, a move that risks our green infrastructure. While it may bring short-term fiscal gains, it fails to account for the long-term economic and environmental benefits preserving green spaces. These areas, including farms and forests, are not just ecological assets. They're vital for community health, tourism, and sustainable development. Our green infrastructure plan here in Harford County underlines the need for connected green spaces. Enterprise zones like the one proposed threaten this connectivity, essential for wildlife, ecological balance, and community well-being. Farms and forests in particular should not be included in these zones. They serve as crucial green corridors, supporting biodiversity and offering residents a connection to nature. We must balance economic development with environmental stewardship. Perryman's future should not be compromised for short-lived economic strategies. We need development that respects our green spaces, sustains our farms and forests, and fosters a healthy, connected community. In closing, I urge the council to reject Resolution 41-23. Let's commit to a vision of Perryman that values green spaces, farms, and forests as much as economic growth. Our decisions today will determine the legacy we leave for future generations. Thank you for considering a path that truly benefits our community. And before I step away from the mic, I just wanted to say that, it's not just what the business is going to be doing today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now. It's what the property looks like. And if the property is not something that's being redeveloped and re-energized, if it's a perfectly good farm, it's a perfectly good forest, if it's a perfectly good wetlands, why would you encourage somebody to build over top of that when our space is so limited? So I thank you for your support.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Ken Shannon, 2044 Park Beach Drive in Perryman. I'm speaking in opposition to Resolution 041-23, the Enterprise Zone Tax Credit for 755 Chelsea Road. I submitted a document that describes the Maryland Enterprise Zone Program purpose, which is to provide economic incentives. My question is, what is being incentivized? You'll see on the document that I provided a picture of the 755 Chelsea Road site. There's 10 pieces of heavy construction equipment there. There's more than a dozen at that site. They've been there since October. See another picture that shows what looks to be the floor of a mega warehouse already in place. My question is, why would the county and state taxes be spent on paying a business to do something that they're already doing? The owner of the property, FRP 801 Chelsea LLC, is currently assessed $897,000 on their 17.77 acre site. As you saw in the document that I provided 2 weeks ago in the council meeting, that property was last sold for $1.25 million on September 1st, 2021. That assessment is 28% below the recent sale price. And if you remember from that worksheet, every single one of the mega warehouses in Perryman are assessed below their recent sale price, less than 5 years ago. I would expect maybe some are higher, some are lower. Every one of them is below, from 22 to 63%. Why would the county and the state provide further tax breaks to a company that doesn't seem to be paying their fair share? The purpose of the enterprise zone, according to the Harford County government website, is to encourage the creation of well-paying new jobs. Warehouse jobs are not well-paying. That's been established. It's also to ensure the retention and spur expansion of resident businesses. 755 Chelsea is not a resident business. The developer is from outside Harford County. It's to promote the development and occupancy of vacant, underutilized land and buildings. There are no vacant or underutilized buildings at 755 Chelsea. Another purpose of the enterprise zone in Harford County is to support the county's commitment to revitalizing older industrial areas of Harford County. 755 Chelsea is not an older industrialized area. None of the neighboring freight terminals are more than 15 years old. Mr. Richardson has pointed to the state regulations saying that this is a done deal, but the resolution that is pertinent is number 003-06, which brought the land at 755 Chelsea into the Aberdeen Enterprise Zone in 2006. At that time, the council believed that it would increase the overall economic viability of the area. Meanwhile, Perryman has the highest poverty rate and lowest median income in Harford County. why would the county grant tax credits to a development that doesn't respond to the goals of the resolution that brought the property into the enterprise zone? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Robert Tibbs, followed by Paul Falacci.
Good evening. Paul Falacci, 320 Marina Avenue in Perryman. I'm speaking in opposition to Resolution 4123, Enterprise Zone Tax Credit, 755 Chelsea Road. I'm going to talk, I have done some studies and some research on the enterprise zones here in Harford County, specifically in the Aberdeen, Havre de Grace. Enterprise zones have not been good for Perryman. Today's hearing is about tax credits for another new mega warehouse being built in Perryman on Chelsea Road. Over the last 10 years, there have been 8 other mega warehouses that have been granted similar tax credits for buildings assessed between $29 million for the Chelsea Road Ryder mega warehouse to the $44 million Eastgate Wayfair mega warehouse. So over a 10-year period, estimate $23.5 million tax credits have been granted by this county council. That tax loss and tax revenue is split 50-50 with the state. Income levels and employment have not improved despite $398 million in building construction costs since 2007 in the Aberdeen Havre de Grace enterprise zone. It's right off the county website. Perryman data for the EPA site based on 2020 census data. Low income. 67% of the U.S. has higher income than the residents of Perryman. Enterprise zone is not helping them out. Hazardous waste proximity. 82% of the U.S. has less exposure than Perryman residents to hazardous waste. Unemployment. 94% of the U.S. has higher employed residents than Perryman. Enterprise zone is not helping out the residents of Perryman. Done some statewide analysis too. It shows that out of the 34 enterprise zones in Maryland, the second largest zone is the Aberdeen Havre de Grace zone at 9,797 acres, only second to Baltimore City. However, Harford County is only the 8th populous county in the state. So the average size of these enterprise zones is 2,436 acres. So Aberdeen Havre de Grace enterprise zone is 4 times the state average. Why? Because we're not using old businesses. We're taking farmland and woods and open space. What happens after the 10-year capital investment tax credit ends or the 10-year income job creation tax credits expire? We can look to the recent actions of the XPO Logistics in Perryman, which laid off 170 workers, which was also supposed to be 240 when they had their tax credit summary, but never got up to that number. This past summer, after 8 years in the new building, those 170 workers were laid off. This is what happened. So really, enterprise zones are just a temporary job program for tax credits for the XPO Logistics of the world, with their corporate headquarters in Greenwich, Connecticut. Estimated cost for much-needed infrastructure improvements in Perryman: proper traffic signs, $50,000. Sidewalk for Spususha Road to Perryman Grocery Store, $1.2 million. Roundabout at Spususha Road and Perryman Road, $2.4 million. Spususha Road improvements, $5.7 million. Woodley Road connection to 715, $7.5 million. That adds up to about $17 million, less than the $21.5 million that we've given to Greenwich, Connecticut. So let's invest back in our communities and not send tax credits to Greenwich, Connecticut. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Brendan Patton.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council. Brendan Patton, 2054 Park Beach Drive. I'm here to speak in opposition tonight to Resolution 41-23, the Enterprise Tax Zone for 755 Chelsea Road. Just a little background, 755 Chelsea Road was a 17-acre farm field. It's now under construction with a 250,000 square foot mega warehouse, due to be completed in spring of 2024. The site across the street from 755 Chelsea Road is an empty XPO Logistics warehouse, 570,000 square feet, empty. So the first thing I'd like to discuss about this resolution is the fiscal impact note which accompanies the resolution. The fiscal note does not include the increase in property value due to the warehouse construction, which makes this fiscal note useless. I emailed the county auditor with my concerns about the fiscal note. She responded promptly. We exchanged emails about the issue. She said as county auditor, she cannot project the property value increases due to property improvements. While I disagree with this stance, we moved on to discuss how the enterprise tax zone credit works and how lost tax revenue could be calculated based on estimated improved property value. I find it ridiculous that the fiscal note attached to this resolution is not accurate. And I think the council, in their role as a check on the executive branch, should look into this. But with that aside, based on the discussion I had with the auditor and using publicly available values of similar existing warehouses in Perryman, I calculated the estimated tax loss to the county for this property to be over $400,000. So now let's talk about the purpose of the enterprise zone. Quoting directly from the enterprise zone website of Harford County, enterprise zones are designated to encourage the creation of well-paying jobs and ensure retention and expansion of resident businesses. Well, this warehouse does neither of those. This is not a resident business. It's not an existing business. And warehouse jobs pay $40,000 a year. That's not a well-paying job, not in Harford County. So we've also heard from warehouse managers in these chambers about how hard it is to find warehouse workers. And yet we're going to incentivize a developer to pave over farmland to make it harder to hire more workers. So let's talk about what voting for this resolution really will do. It'll give away over $400,000 in tax revenue. It'll encourage the conversion of an open field into impervious surface near the Bush River and over top of the Harford County well fields. It will reward the developer for hurting existing businesses by increasing competition for workers. It will allow the developer to get away with not paying for the increased truck traffic and the damage to our infrastructure. And it would also encourage future development in an area already suffering from past environmental injustice. So in summary, there is no justifiable reason to give a tax credit to 755 Chelsea Road. And the residents of Harford County will remember how you vote on this issue. And one last thing is I can't agree, or I guess as a council member, I'd be upset if they told me I had to vote a certain way because the state told me so. There's a reason this resolution is in front of you. Please use your best judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There are no more speakers, Mr. President.
All right, with no other speakers, this will conclude the public hearing for both Resolution 04023 and 04123. But, Mr. Richardson, before you go, can you explain your phone call to me this afternoon as far as moving this bill or these credits?
Yes, sir. We did another check with Maryland State Department of Assessments and Taxation, and that for these items to move forward to them, they have to be, the resolution has to be enacted, and this has to be in SDAT's hands by December 31st.
Thank you, sir. What's that?
Can I say something?
It's done now. You can later on, sure. Now I'd like to open up public hearing for Bill 23-036, Human Relations Commission membership. Mr. Richardson, you going to speak to that as well?
Yes, sir, I am. Okay, Mr. President, members of the council, Lawrence A. Richardson Jr. on behalf of Harford County government. Before you today, you have Bill 23-036. It seeks to do a modification to the membership of the Human Relations Commission. Currently, as the law reads, there shall be a Human Relations Commission consisting of the following members: 14 qualified voters of the county, and one member who is a current county student, 16 through 18 years of age. What this bill would do is to change that to make it 15 qualified voters of the county, so it would not be a student member, but just a regular member. Part of the reason has become is that, as we understand it, there has been some difficulty in getting a youth member to fill that role. And clearly, once they turn 18, they're off from that capacity. Then you have to find another body to get in. We'd like to keep some consistency and viability going with this commission. That's why the suggestion here is before you today is to take it back to what it was and make it just 15 qualified voters of the county.
Thank you, council. Any questions at this time? Mr. Bennett?
What advocacy work has been done to find 16 to 18-year-olds to fill that role? I mean, we're about to hear from high schoolers tonight who are working heavily in finance at Edgewood High School. So what's the work that's being done currently to find those qualified 16 to 18-year-olds in our school system that is making this so difficult even with those processes being done?
My understanding has been there has been continued outreach, both through the county, through the Human Relations Commission itself, in reaching out to the schools. But there's been some difficulty over the years. Now, right now, we do have a student member, but once that individual turns 18, they'll be off the board because they are now 18.
And how old are they now, the student member?
I believe that person's a senior, so we'll be approaching. So and the age right now, currently is in the code, is 16 through 18.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anyone else? Mr. Giangiordano.
Mr. Richardson, good evening. Says Tiffany was going to do this tonight, so where's Tiffany?
I was invited to be here. I don't know. I don't know if she had something previous. I don't know.
Well, Tiffany said she had no idea about it. So my concern is, her name's here, and I texted Tiffany. I said, where you at? She said, I have no idea what this is about. So I got questions as to why it's here and why I'm getting this and why you're here and she should be here. And no answers.
No, as I said, I was under the impression that it was going to be me here. I will find an answer for you.
So that's the second thing, because earlier it said Karen Holt was going to be here. Karen Holt wasn't here, you were here.
Okay, council member, I said, I don't know, I'm not sure why that would have been communicated to you all. That was not my understanding. And I'd be curious as to where you would receive that who had communicated that information to you.
Well,
We'll follow up with that tomorrow.
okay.
Anyone else? Questions? Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up?
There is no one signed up, Mr. President.
With no one else signed up to speak, this will conclude the public hearing on Bill 23-036, and we will take this up at a future meeting. Thank you. So we're going to take a 6-minute recess.
Ooh-wee.
Good evening. Chair calls to order legislative session day 23-033. I would ask you to join us in standing for the pledge, followed by the opening prayer by Councilman Guthrie. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow your heads. Let's pray that in this holiday season, people come together. Peace replaces hate, and love conquers all. Amen. And I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays to all.
Amen. Agenda number 4, presentation of proclamations. We have none this evening. 5, consideration of petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations. Council, as you know, each year at this time, we have a council vice president appointment. So may I have a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve Councilman from District C, Tony G. Giordano, as Vice President.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. It's been moved and seconded to approve the appointment of council vice president to Mr. Giangiordano. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bennett?
I'm going to be supporting having Tony as our vice president for the next year. It probably isn't a surprise to Tony to know that before I was elected, he wasn't my #1 council member on the county council over the years. But working with you for the past year, it's actually been a joy of mine to get to know you from a different angle and to see the way you work. Tony's incredibly available. He is very inclusive on sharing whatever his thoughts are, wanting to know what my thoughts are, and has always had an open door in that way. So as vice president, I think he served that role very well for the past year, and I think he'll continue to do a good job for the next year. And as I told him, I don't think there's anybody else, no offense to everybody else, but I don't think there's anybody else I'd rather vote for on our council right now to serve in that capacity.
Wow.
Jim, you nominated him, so you agree. But I just wanted to share that before we vote.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anyone else? If I may, I'd like to also not echo all those comments for sure. I don't want to make his head any bigger than what it is, but I do appreciate the availability of Councilman Giangiordano He's always there to pick up the phone. He's always there to bounce things off of, and I appreciate that very much. I appreciate his commitment and dedication, as all of the council members, to the county and its citizens. But I did want to make that comment this evening, so thank you. Mr. Guthrie?
Did nobody else want it?
Apparently not. Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie?
Okay, aye.
Mr. Penman?
Aye.
I guess Mr. Jan Giordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Could abstain.
Mrs. Bull Saddles?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the appointment stands approved. Congratulations, I think.
I think.
The Harford Center Board of Directors, Mr. Bennett. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. President, I move that we approve Michael Hagan to be added to the Harford Board of Directors, Harford Center Board of Directors.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve Mr. Hagan to the Harford Center Board of Directors. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bennett?
It's just been a long time coming to get our board complete at the Harford Center, to have our seats filled. Harford Center's worked really hard to find somebody that would meet the desires of our county executive, but also meet the mission and vision of the Harford Center. And I think Mr. Hagan's close connection to the Harford Center, having a family member who uses their services and participates in their programming, is really exciting. And I'm just excited for our board to have another member. So I appreciate all of your support tonight in this vote.
Oh, you are here. Very good. Very nice. Thank you very much. Well, don't say thank you yet. We haven't voted yet. Anyone else? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie?
Aye.
Mr. Penman?
Aye.
Mr. Jan Giordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
I appreciate you being there, sir. Aye.
Mrs. Bull Saddles?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the appointment is hereby approved. Mr. Hagan, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. The executive appointment for Hartford TV was, at the request of the county executive, has been withdrawn. Number 6, special presentations. Edgewood High School Academy of Finance. Mr. Penman, I believe you were involved in this, so I'd like to welcome Chuck Hunter forward, please. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just pull the mic close to you so we can hear you.
Okay. Is that good? Well, my PowerPoint loads up. I want to thank everybody for the invite. Mr. Penman, met him at one of our events and got to talking, and he said, hey, love to have you come. I said, that'd be great. Always want to promote some of the things we do at Edgewood High School. Him being an alum worked out really well, so thanks for the opportunity. My name is Chuck Hunter. I'm the coordinator of the Academy of Finance at Edgewood High School. It's a program that we run. It's a 3-year program. It's not a magnet program, so some of you guys might be familiar with the International Baccalaureate program at Edgewood High School or the Science and Math Academy, things like that. Those are magnet programs. We're a signature program, meaning we operate within our school. Students are able to, nice, thank you. Students are able to apply for boundary exception, but within our program, it's contained just at Edgewood High School. So just covered that. We do have 350 students currently enrolled in our program, which is a big number. We're at about 1,400 students at our school, so we got a pretty good percentage of them. It's a 3-year program, sophomores, junior, senior year. We do have that International Baccalaureate program where students can be involved in both, so it works out really well. And what we're trying to do is provide opportunities for our students to grow and to better themselves, so when they leave, they're a little bit ahead of where a normal high school graduate would be. We're under the National Academy Foundation, which is it's a national program. Obviously, they have pathways in finance, engineering, hospitality. we're the only academy in Harford County, and they're big into work-based learning, taking community input. In our case, we have tons of business partners throughout Harford County, and trying to meet those needs of the employers, the needs of the businesses, and match those with what we're putting our students out with what they're able to do. We are a distinguished academy, which is the highest level. We've been that since, for 4 consecutive years. There's over 800 academies throughout the country. There's under 200 that are distinguished, so we're pretty proud of that. The program started at Edgewood High School in 1999, 2 students piloting it, where, like I said, we're up to over 350 now. We have 4 different business teachers, myself included. So, we continue to grow. So I've seen some council members at different events that we've had, which is great. And if we're all throughout the community. Graduates are at banks, at credit unions, at financial institutions working, and spreading the name of what we do. Just some courses that we offer through our pathway: Intro to Finance, accounting, ethics, economics, global business, entrepreneurship, planning, insurance, things like that. Students take all those courses or some combination of those courses as they move through in those 3 years, which obviously financial literacy is a big push. We like to think we go beyond that. Obviously, our students are going to be financially literate, but they're going to be a couple steps beyond that as well once they graduate from our program. Just some benefits. We do have a student-run credit union within our school. We partner with APG FCU, so it's open 2 days a week. We take deposits, we allow withdrawals, we open accounts, all the same things that you can do at a local credit union. We do right there for faculty, staff, and students at Edgewood High School that have memberships. APG FCU, Harco, Freedom, they all come in the spring and, to our seniors and, basically try to get them to apply and come work because they know they have the experience and they've gone through that process. They train them just like regular tellers that work at APG FCU, so it's the full experience. A couple of our classes are weighted, so students like that because it gives them that bump in their GPA. We do more project-based learning as opposed to standard, true, false, multiple choice tests like that. We're doing a lot of real-world examples, real-world work, and project-based learning so that the students get a chance to show what they know as opposed to just having to answer questions and things like that. Lots of guest speakers. Ms. Brooks has been in a whole bunch. We have, from all over, business owners, alumni, all kinds of people that come in and just share their experiences. Sometimes they'll talk about specific subjects. Sometimes they'll just say, hey, I own this business. This is how I got here. This is how I got to where I am now. This is the path that I took. So the work-based learning part of our program, I think, is one of the big things that our students get that most students don't get from comprehensive high schools or from some of the other things that they do when they go through the other schools in the county. So we had a professional day 2 weeks ago. We had 15 different business partners coming in, working with resume prep, mock interviews, presentations on professional communication and business etiquette and things like that. We offer scholarships. We have our own, and then we also put them in touch with some of the other local business community scholarships as well. We are governed by our Academy of Finance Advisory Board. Ms. Brooks is our current president. We have over 30 businesses that are members of this advisory board. They help with planning for events. They help with letting us as a school, the school-based team, know what the community is looking for, what the business community in Harford County, what the trends are, what the needs are, and things like that. So it helps us sort of steer our instruction as we go through with our students. So big piece, 3 pieces: the student, the employer, and the educator. We take those business partners and we take what they tell us and we use that to help make it so that our students are more marketable when they come out, whether they're going to go to college or if they're just going to go right into the world of work. We like them to be 2-3 steps ahead of your average high school graduate. Some of our current sponsors got all kinds of, local businesses that you're going to see up there that you're going to know of. So they're all involved in some form or another, whether it's taking interns. We're big on internships. We're always looking to place our students somewhere. We've had some students that have been hired recent years and stayed on. Famous and Spang Insurance Company, you see them there. They hired somebody in 2021. They still have them. Trying to think. Clifton Larson Allen, an accounting firm, hired somebody last summer. They kept them on. So we try to make sure that these students are getting these opportunities and this exposure to these businesses that they maybe normally wouldn't have without our program. And so, like I said, basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to give our students at Edgewood High School every advantage possible, no matter what field they want to go in. So even if they have no interest in finance, they're going to need a resume at some point, so they learned how to do that. They're going to need to interview for a job at some point, so they learned how to do that. They're going to make these connections with some of these business people that they can call on down the road, even if it's, hey, we just have a real estate partner and I'm looking to buy a house. Let me go call on the guy that I met at Edgewood High School. So those are the opportunities that we're trying to provide with our program. That's all I have. Questions, if you got any now, I can answer. If you think of any, my contact information's there. And like I said, thanks for the opportunity. We're always looking to market our program.
So, Mr. Hunter, let me commend you on the program. I had an opportunity to visit a couple of times with Principal Mack and Dr. Hill and Ms. Brooks, obviously. And Ms. Brooks, would you like to come forward and speak to interns and things that we have here that work with you? And while you're coming up front, I'd like to open the floor up to Mr. Penman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Hunter, thank you for your presentation. Before we met at that event, I wasn't aware of this program and what an incredible program it is, preparing these young adults for adulthood financially, and the job connections, just exposure them to those fields. So I also want to commend Ms. Brooks for her leadership in this role and her expertise and just in paying it forward. So myself and Jessica Bull-Sottles, Councilwoman Sottles, attended the event, and we were both impressed, and we both wanted you to present here so we can get the word out there and other students can participate. Because really, the reality of it is this should be in every school, I think. So I know that it's not easy to do, but I think it could be an asset across the whole county.
No, yeah, we've as we've gotten bigger, that within our program at our school, that's been a discussion. Like, because you realize my wife works at C. Milton Wright, and it's, you talk to what they do in their classes in business, and that's not a knock on what the other schools do, because they're good teachers too, but just the content, the curriculum is so far behind what we're doing. And so for our students, it's almost unfair. We say to for our students to have this when the other schools in the county don't. And I agree. It's definitely something with the way things are, with the economy the way it is. Kids need to know this stuff. They're going to need this more than English teachers hold your ear. But you need this more than you need Shakespeare. Like this is
It's everyday stuff.
right, exactly.
So just let me know what I can do to advocate for you
I
and
sure
your program.
will. I
Thank
sure
you.
will. We'd love to have you come in and speak. So we'll be in touch. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Awesome.
Crystal?
Yeah, I'll use this one. Yeah, so adding to what Mr. Hunter said, I would note as a business partner for the Academy and serving on the Academy board, I find that, one, there are a lot of people in the community who are willing to help out students, and that's a great thing. But then also the opportunities for us as board members to meet with students, find out about what's going on, what they need in their learning. Mr. Hunter mentioned the Professional Development Day a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to kids. We were focusing on reviewing resumes, but we also talked through, what jobs have they had in the past? What have their experiences been? What can they take away from what they've learned in other work experiences to move towards something that they expect to be their career? But also, how can they improve upon what they're doing right now so that they're going to that next level? And then, of course, internships are great, and you all see an intern in our office most summers, and they're good kids. They're eager to learn, and it's great to have them around. So certainly me and the rest of the Academy board certainly appreciate your support and anything that you all can do to help the board.
Thank you, Crystal. Mr. Giangiordano?
So, Mr. Hunter, thanks, glad you're here. I worked with Dr. Hill, myself and my sister did, with the insurance part, getting that off the board and putting that on. And then we actually got Hartford Community College now to do that, where we saw a need in the community to try to get young people involved in insurance, and there was a couple meetings that we had and back and forth. So I'm glad that that's one of the things that you're doing. It's a great career, and it's not a lot of young people are getting into that. So if you need us to come back out and do anything on that, appreciate it. I see I'm not on a partner, so I'm going to have to fix that too.
Sure. No, yeah, we'll be in touch. You're right. And part of what we do is, these students don't know what they don't know. So if they don't know what a career in insurance looks like, we want to expose them to that. So even if it's, we'll bring an insurance, agent in, and they talk about how they got there and what they do. And all of a sudden these students are like, huh, and that's the idea. Because we're trying to, you ask a high school kid what do they want to do, and if they think they like math, they say they want to be an engineer. And if they think they like to argue, they say they want to be a lawyer. But, and we need all those, but we also need all the other fields. And when you think finance, we do a lot with accounting, but there's a million different other paths they can take as well, too. So we're always just working to get that exposure so they can see, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. And, I tell our guest speakers, hey, what do you, what should I start with? What should I lead with? How much money do you make? And we tell them that, and they'll come in, and all of a sudden, you'll have 15 students all ears when you say, I make X amount of money right now, and because that's what resonates. So we love to have business partners in all kinds of different fields, so we do appreciate that, sir.
Mr. Bennett?
Hello. My wife actually teaches a few doors down from the bank as the dance teacher at Edgewood High School.
Okay, you knew this year, right?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
But she loves the bank and talks about how, staff will save their birthday checks and Christmas checks because they want to take it to the kids. And it's a really special experience for your students to be able to do that. I mean, how unique is it to have a bank in the middle of a high school?
Right.
And so I just want to celebrate you in the creativity of your program and the flexibility of your program, really making a difference for kids. And to be able to provide for them such an essential piece of education, I just think it's a wonderful thing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, no, the credit union's great, and there's a bunch of teachers that they'll come by and they'll put $5 in just to give the kids the experience. I mean, they don't need to do that, but they'll take $5 out just so the kids can work as tellers and the kids can do the things that normal, tellers at a credit union get to do. So it is really cool. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anyone else? Mr. Guthrie?
Yeah, I remember when I was on the council before 2002, 2014, we were working together on a lot of that stuff and all of the programs to get them kicked off. Like you said, 99, you had a couple of people.
Yep.
We worked together to get that banking, to piggyback on what's called about the banking thing that says so a lot of the kids can learn how to go up and make a deposit. And it's a normal things of life that a lot of people don't get educated in. Simple things like that, simple things, to learn how to bank, learn how to make checks, learn how to write a check. And all that stuff seems small, but it's all part of. And I was glad that we could get a lot of them programs started back in the 80s, 2008.
Absolutely. And the credit union's great because you're 100% right that there's students will be very skeptical. Well, what do you mean? An APG FCU right now is running a promotion. They'll put $50 into your account, and I couldn't tell you the number of times our marketers, our students have to explain that no, it's not a scam. No, this is a real thing. All you have to do is open an account. This is a bank account, or this is a share account at a credit union. This means this money's here, it's safe. Well, what happens to my money? Well, they hold on to it for you. And for a lot of our students, they don't have accounts. They've never had accounts. They've never had that exposure. Sometimes their parents haven't even. So to provide that opportunity through the credit union to students that maybe wouldn't know, or now they have an account. So when they graduate, that account's, it's live and it's active. It's not just for the Rembrandt, it's for APG FCU, so they now have a share account at a credit union.
Always remind me when my grandson was little, 5 or 6 years old, whatever it was, we were talking, we were going to take him down to the beach, and so come on, we're going to go to the beach. He says, "What's a beach?" And that's what strikes you. You say, "Well, wait a minute, this is normal stuff that nobody actually knows, and sooner or later you got to teach them how to do all this stuff that they don't know anything about. Didn't know what a beach was." I said, "Oh, that was a shocker." But
I'll add that as part of the Ram Branch, the students are, well, with supervision, obviously, they're running a little bank branch there, so you've got folks who are doing those teller skills, but you've also got kids who are assigned to be managers, so they're responsible for making sure other kids know when they're scheduled, but also there are kids who are responsible for marketing, so they're out there educating their friends and other students in the building about what all those things actually mean. So if it's, not just learning how to write a check, but how does the account work, then the students are having to learn it for themselves, but also they are teaching others, which really solidifies skills.
All right, well, it is an absolute amazing program. And I think the day we were there, I don't know how many students were involved, but it was quite a few. And Ms. Brooks, we appreciate your involvement there. And anything that this council can do to assist you in your efforts, please let us know. And we appreciate you coming this evening, sir.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Agenda number 7, approval of minutes, legislative day 23-032, December 12th, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There being no corrections, minutes stand approved. Agenda number 8, introduction and consideration of resolutions. Resolution 042-23, notice of sale refunding bond Series A. May I have a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve.
Go ahead, Mr. Guthrie. Go ahead.
You okay? I make a motion, we approve bond 040-23 enterprise zone tax credit for,
It's a wrong resolution, Mr. Guthrie.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. May I have a motion for resolution 042-23?
Mr. President, I move to approve Resolution 042-23, Notice of Sale Refunding Bond Series A.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. It's moved and seconded to approve resolution 042-23. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie?
Aye.
Mr. Penman?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Bowl Sottles?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, resolution 042-23 is hereby approved. Resolution 043-23, notice of sale, refunding bond Series B. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Resolution 043-23.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 043-23. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie?
Aye.
Mr. Penman?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Bowl Sottles?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, Resolution 043-23 is hereby approved. Resolution 040-23, Enterprise Zone Tax Credit, 2007 Cedar Drive, Edgewood. Mr. Guthrie.
Now I'll get it. Mr. President, I move to approve Resolution 040-23, enterprise zone for 2007 Cedar Drive in Edgewood.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 040-23. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie?
Aye.
Mr. Penman?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Sir, I appreciate you being here tonight. Aye.
Mrs. Bowl Sottles?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, Resolution 40-23 is hereby approved. Resolution 041-23, Enterprise Zone Tax Credit, 755 Chelsea Road, Aberdeen. Mr. Bennett?
Mr. President, I move to approve resolution number 041-23.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. It's moved and seconded to approve Resolution 041-23. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bennett?
I just wanted to say that I don't like necessarily how the enterprise zone has been used in Harford County historically. It's something that I've been very vocal about. When it comes to my particular vote on this resolution, it really just comes down to my understanding of state law and making sure that we're following that law. I do want to just note for like public record that I've met with community partners on this for weeks. I talked about it during the committee process, reached out to people who live in the area and asked for their thoughts and their input. That I am working actively with the county executive, having several meetings to talk about addressing some of these areas in the enterprise zone that are a concern to us. And that I've been very available to have conversations about this issue. And that, when it comes to this particular property, looking at the application, looking at, the qualifications by state law, I felt responsibility to vote yes, but that doesn't mean it's a reflection of my opinion on enterprise zones or how they're being used in Harford County. And I do hope to address the issues of enterprise zones in the future. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Ms. Sotos?
Thank you, Mr. President. From my understanding, we're voting merely on certifying that these properties are in the enterprise zone and meet the criteria set forth by the state. So that's why I will be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sotos. Anyone else? Mr. Giangiordano?
Good evening. So I just want to, I appreciate Councilman Bennett's statement on the enterprise zone and the state and the tax credits. And I want to apologize to Mr. Richardson before about the information that I had gotten was maybe not accurate about the people showing up to discuss these two things. So I do want to apologize to that. I just thought some other people were coming. So I understand, were you able to find anything out on who is the possible tenant, or do they not have a tenant? Are they spec building it, or is that?
Okay, Mr. President, am I allowed?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I did confirm that right now the building does not have an identifiable tenant to date. They are looking. Right now, the approach that they're taking is like many structures of this type. They're looking to find the best tenant to go. It could be a single tenant. It could be the building can then be reconstructed interiorly to fit multiple tenants. They're looking for the maximum occupation of the building and the maximum amount of, production coming out of that building right now.
Is it because it was built before so it can be a warehouse or it can be manufactured?
Yes,
It's
sir.
not limited to what it can be?
Yes, sir.
Because of the time frame of when they put their permits in and when it could be
Yes,
built, right? Okay. Like I said, I understand that the tax credit. I definitely agree with Jacob on this, and I do have my concerns, but anyway, thank you very much and appreciate the response.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. Mr. Guthrie?
What I am disappointed if a business or a company or whoever it is looking for a tax credit from this council. I think they at least should have had somebody here. So you have the gentleman here from Edgewood for the copper mine project. I don't understand why, if somebody was here looking for a tax credit, which is going to put money, basically it's going to put money in their pocket, couldn't be here to answer some questions, since there were so many questions across the council that we couldn't get answered because they weren't here to answer it. So that's what I'm disappointed about.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Mr. Giangiordano?
Mr. Richardson, one other question. If they don't get the tax credit and we don't approve it this year, they would reapply for it next year, correct? Or does it have to be before it's built? I don't think so, right?
No, my understanding is, pardon, there could be a reapplication. There could also be a review in a sense of this process of, did they meet the criteria? And this council chose not to move this matter forward.
Okay.
Mr. Penman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the philosophy of the enterprise zones to recruit and attract the best businesses for Harford County, to stimulate our local economy. So I support this resolution, but I do believe, I just want to put on the record again, the hypocrisy in this is incredible. We just went through a long process to take away development on this same peninsula, and now we're incentivizing it. And I really believe this opens the door for further lawsuits, that this particular piece of property on the Mitchell Farm was spot zoned. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
I'd like to echo my comments from my colleague from A. Unlike Coppermine, who shows up, takes the time to come here to answer any of our questions, folks wanting our approval for enterprise zone at 755 Chelsea did not even take the time to appear to present before us. I'm going to be a heavy no on this, and I wish the rest of my council would do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Anyone else? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie,
No.
Mr. Penman,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
What are we doing? You want to pass for right now?
I'm going to pass.
Okay.
Mr. Riley,
No.
Mrs. Bull Saddles,
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
There being 5 votes in the affirmative and 2 in the negative, Resolution 041-23 is hereby approved. Mr. Giangiordano, please read Bill 23-037 into the record for introduction.
Bill 23-037, Habitat Protection Areas, Zoning, Chapter 267-63.9, introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive. An act to repeal and reenact with amendments, subsection A of Section 267-63.9, Habitat Protection Areas of Part 2, General Legislation, Chapter 267, Zoning, Article 7, District Regulations to add species, sites, and species to be included in subsection A in parentheses 2 of Section 267-63.9, entitled Habitats of State and Federally Designated and Listed Threatened or Endangered Species or Species in Need of Conservation, Natural Heritage Areas, and Habitats of Local Significance, and to add to the end of this, of subsection A of subsection 267-63.9, a new paragraph incorporating Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife, and Heritage Division's map showing the habitat protection areas and the renumber each subsequent subsection to section 267-63.9 and to add to newly numbered subsection F, parentheses 1, parentheses F of section 267-63.9 specified wildlife habitats determined to be of local significance and to add to subsection F, parentheses 2, parentheses A, parentheses B, parentheses C, and D of section 267-63.9, the terms plant and before the word wildlife in each of these paragraphs, and to add a new paragraph E to subsection F, parentheses 2 of the section 267-69.3 to include protection of natural heritage areas and generally relating to zoning, and to add a new appendix H to the Harford County Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Management Program entitled Modification and Review Procedures for Projects in Harford County involving non-tidal wetlands, and to replace in its entirety Appendix 1 to the Harford County Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Management Program Manual entitled Habitat Protection Areas for Harford County Critical Area, and to replace all Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Program maps and Program Manual maps incorporated by reference into Harford County Code under Section 169-1A of the Code, 1A1 of the Code, which were revised, 1, as a result of an updated natural resource information from the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and other cartographic base layer information, and 2, in order to be consistent with the state of Maryland, public hearing scheduled January 16th at 6:45 p.m. in these chambers.
Thank you. Agenda items number 10, introduction and consideration of amendments. 11, call for final reading of bills. 12, enrollment of bills. 13, unfinished business. 14, new business. We have no business this evening. Agenda number 17, comments and input from attending citizens. Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up?
We do, Mr. President. We have 9 this evening. Lee Maddox, followed by Glenn Dutter.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. President and members of the council. Lee Maddox, 1700 Church Point Court, Perryman. As a proud member of this community, I want to discuss a critical issue tonight, our stormwater management system, or MS4, and its impact on our beloved Perryman and the wider Chesapeake Bay ecosystem. 3P has recently drafted a report, Turning the Tide, Perryman's Path from Sacrifice Zone to Sustainable Community for a Healthier Chesapeake Bay. The report outlines a crisis in environmental justice, which includes systemic mistreatment of our public drinking water system and our rivers and Chesapeake Bay tributaries. MS4 might sound technical, but it's essentially a system that manages rainwater in our towns. Proper management is critical because when rainwater runs off concrete and asphalt, it doesn't just disappear. It carries with it a cocktail of pollutants, oils, heavy metals, and significantly nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which are incredibly harmful to our Chesapeake Bay. But there's more. Our waters face contamination from dangerous chemicals like PFAS and PFOS. These are man-made substances that don't break down easily and pose serious health risks like cancer. These pollutants have been found in and around our Perryman well field, which supplies water to 30% of Harford County. This contamination is a direct result of inadequate management and oversight. Now let's talk history. Harford County's record with MS4 is far from stellar. As far back as 2009, an EPA audit found the county in violation of its MS4 permit. This isn't just an environmental issue, it's a legal and ethical one. We have laws and commitments in place to protect our environment, yet they're being overlooked. In Perryman, we've raised our voices, we've shown evidence, we've made reports, but the response has been underwhelming. It's not just a lack of action, it's disrespect for our community's health and well-being. This issue extends beyond Perryman. The decline of underwater grasses in the Gunpowder River, essential for aquatic habitats, mirrors our struggles. Unchecked development and the resultant nutrient-rich runoff are clouding our waters, affecting life beneath the surface that is vital to our bay's health. So I urge you all to stand with me. This is more than just clean water. It's about preserving our community and the Chesapeake Bay for our children and future generations. We need to demand action, enforce existing environmental regulations, and ensure our voices are being heard and heeded. Imagine a Perryman with thriving rivers and a healthy bay, a place where our kids can play without the shadow of pollution. This dream could be our reality, but only if we come together to make it happen. 3P has done research also on health disparities. For breast cancer in females, Perryman is third of 10 tracks reporting, and Harford County, my friends, is first of 24 counties reporting, and Baltimore City. Please do something before it's too late. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Glenn Dutter, 1806 Park Beach Drive, Aberdeen, community Perryman. In dealing with the problem of the Perryman well field, there's a few things I'd like to clarify that I find other people are confused about. And perhaps it'll help you in the decision-making. This simple little equation just says that the supply of groundwater in quality and quantity is a relationship between input or infiltration and withdrawal or outflow. And I'm not trying to be pedantic, I'm not trying to belittle anybody. It's just that whenever I bring this up, I'm told, well, Harford County isn't increasing its withdrawal. Well, that's true, but that doesn't address the question of input. It doesn't answer the factor of I. And so that raises the question, and the question basically is, has the increase in impermeable surfaces over the well field decreased infiltration and thus affected supply, quality, and quantity? Now, I don't know. I don't know that anybody else does. But I do know, for example, that one developer was granted an exemption to decrease infiltration by 3%. And in driving through the area, I've noticed some excellent stormwater infiltration ponds filled in, paved over, and built upon. This is why 3P has repeatedly requested that another evaluation of the hydrology be conducted on the area. And if you'll recall, this was the 97 survey, and it showed that trichloroethane was being drawn from Aberdeen Proving Grounds into the well field because of the amount of withdrawal that we were taking. The request to redo this, using this as a base and build on it, has taken on increased importance now that EPA has detected the perfluora and polyfluora alkyds in the groundwater of APG. That's already been mentioned, and I won't go any further, except at least shortchange it. PFAS, as that's often called, are correlated with increases in obesity, hormone disruption, infertility, thyroid disease, cancer, and hypercholesterol. This tells me that it really is important that we take another look at what this hydrology is so that we can make better decisions as to how we're going to manage it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Janine LaCour, followed by Paul Falacci.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Janine LaCour, 1820 Park Beach Drive, Perryman. I wanted to comment tonight, obviously, Protect Perryman Peninsula is a big part of our community. You're hearing things that we're dealing with now that are decades coming. And not even decades coming, they're centuries coming. We know that in history, 1776, the census, there were 790 people in that in our area, and it was nearly 50-50 between white and enslaved. 55% were white, and 45% were enslaved. And those numbers haven't changed that much. In our current census, there still is a much greater minority population in the Perryman Peninsula than, and it's more than twice that of Harford County overall. So what does that mean? And we're hearing Glenn talk about higher incident rates of cancer. We have the groundwater being affected, our wellheads. And there's a disregard for the people in that community. And what happens is when you have larger minority populations, it's very easy to just ignore that population and disregard them. And that truly is what's been happening over the centuries here in Perryman Peninsula. And I think it's really time that more serious actions be taken. When we talk about Harford County, we talk about the history, and Perryman is where Harford County began. But yet, Our historic buildings are being, they've been bulldozed. The history just gets paved over. And even Spezia Church, which is the oldest Episcopal church in the United States, is in disrepair. We're working with the county. We're trying to work with the Episcopal Church, trying to get that church maintenance done. And things just aren't followed from a county perspective. We had the parish house at Spezia Church was suddenly torn down a few years ago. That was our voting place, and suddenly it was gone. That never went through the Historic Commission. It wasn't until an afterthought afterwards that there was any review about tearing down that parish house. And it was just allowed to be done, and retroactive, it was approved. And now we have 1501 Perryman Road. There's going to be more paving directly across from the church. So we're bringing in more trucks right on top of that church, and I think it's just a complete disregard for the history and the people in the Perryman Peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Paul Falacci, 320 Marina Avenue, Perryman Peninsula. First, one point I'd like to make is I'd like to make an argument that when bills or resolutions come up that maybe people are not ethically agreement with, or they can't vote on their conscience, besides yes or no, you can abstain from the vote. I would say that would be my recommendation as a possible vote sometimes. I'm going to talk about my other topic is understanding environmental justice, the imperative of inclusion. Environmental justice is a pivotal concept that underpins Governor Moore's motto, "No one left behind." Simply put, environmental justice seeks to ensure that all communities, regardless of race, income, or social standing, have equal access to a clean, safe living environment. It aims to redress the disappropriate exposure of pollution, inadequate infrastructure, and limited access to green spaces often experienced by underserved communities. Perryman stands as a glaring example of this oversight. While vast swaths of Maryland revel in natural beauty and resources, Perryman residents grapple daily with pollution, the roar of traffic trailers, and the absence of safe infrastructure and improved park spaces. In essence, Perryman is being left behind. Imagine a young boy who lives in Perryman where sidewalks and crosswalks are absent, but tractor-trailer traffic has surged. While every breath from his asthma inhaler, he is reminded of the pressing environmental injustices that plague his community. Though the Bush River is tanningly close, he has never had the chance to fish, explore its banks, or feel its fresh breeze. He dreams of a nearby place to play that does not aggravate his asthma, a place where he can climb trees and connect with the world around him. The lack of local parks is not just inconvenient, it's an affront to justice and equality. Parks serve as more than just open spaces. They function as natural classrooms for children. Unstructured play in safe, natural environment provides irreplaceable lessons about ecology, biology, and conservation. Lessons kids in Perryman and the surrounding area are currently denied. As I had said before in my talk about the enterprise zones, hazardous waste, Perryman's proximity to hazardous waste is 95% more when compared to the rest of the U.S. population. We have a high exposure to wastewater treatment plants handle sewage and industrial waste. There's a wastewater treatment plant. A process often releases foul odors, airborne particles, and potentially harmful chemicals into the environment. This pattern where toxic facilities are placed near marginalized communities is unfortunately common, perpetuating racial disparities and making environmental justice a pressing concern for communities like Perryman. Having such a facility in close proximity means a greater likelihood of exposure to pollutants affecting both the health and the quality of life. So we would like I had said earlier, some investment in Perryman, not just, it's kind of like the reversed Robin Hood effect. We steal from the poor and give to the rich parts of the county, and we'd like to reverse that in Perryman. Maybe build up the parks, build up the crosswalks, improve the roads. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Holly McComas, followed by John Malamo.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. President. Holly McComas, 1826 Park Beach Drive, Aberdeen. I'm here today to talk about safety. First, it's concerning to me that the Water Source Protection District regulations for Harford County have not been updated in quite some time, as we've heard this evening. This poses a potential threat to both our community and the environment. Therefore, I urge authorities to take immediate action towards conducting a water study and updating the regulations to ensure the safety of our drinking water and the preservation of our environment, not just for the Perryman Peninsula, but for the county. It should be noted that this is not the first time, or the second time, or the third time that this request has been made. It has to be requested to make this study done, and it takes a long time to get it done. So I encourage that it be requested and get this study done. I also want to talk about the road safety. This morning on my way to work, I witnessed that there were 2 terrible accidents at Route 40 and Stasusha Road and at Route 40 and 543. These accidents were not caused by external factors like icy or foggy weather conditions, but rather, if I had to guess, by poor or reckless drivers. It is deeply concerning to me that there is such a frequent rate of accidents on our roads and the risks they pose to the safety of our drivers, passengers, and pedestrians. As a driver myself, I am deeply worried about the safety on our roads. I am sure many others have the same concern. We need to take concrete steps to make our roads safer. This can be achieved by a combination of measures such as stricter traffic laws, better road design, and more education and awareness campaigns. We need to ensure that our roads are safe for everyone who uses them, whether they're drivers, cyclists, or pedestrians. I urge authorities to take immediate action to address this issue. We cannot afford to wait for more accidents happen before we take action. As a community, we need to come together, prioritize the safety of our roads, and make sure that everyone who uses them is protected. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Sir, good evening to you and your colleagues. Could I just take a minute to fix this?
Yes, sir.
It's got 2 moving parts. It's outside my skill set.
We know that, sir.
No argument there.
We recognize that.
No argument.
Sir, good evening to you and your colleagues, and thank you for that recognition. John P. Malamo, 2402 Eagle View Drive, Bel Air, Maryland. In looking at the situation, I wonder, does the zoning code apply to zoning case 5814 or the conditions of the hearing examiner? If not, why? If so, when? There are simple words that could be used to describe the situation at hand: fraud, misrepresentation, mistake, corruption, lies. No doubt that there are others that might apply. I believe that the situation is a bit more complicated. Recalling Plato's Republic, reviewing the allegory of the cave. Occupants in the cave were forced to look at a wall and saw only shadows. Because they did not know otherwise, they believed the shadows to be reality. County residents coming into these chambers with their pleas see the shadows of governance and government. The reality is that the functions of governance and government are conducted elsewhere, with people who have cultivated access and acquired influence. Those people inform the decisions and shape the actions of government and governance. They do not come into these chambers. They have no need to, as long as residents believe the shadows are real. Looking at a more modern philosophers and referring to no less a great philosopher than Forrest Gump, stupid is as stupid does. That bit of wisdom is profound in its simplicity and requires no explanation. A fundamental goal for democratic government and governing bodies is to earn and hold trust and confidence of the people residing in the areas of concern. The personal character, honesty, integrity, accountability, responsibility, and mental acuity of those in public office is critical to success. Those The population evaluates elected and appointed officials against those traits 365, 24/7. What level of trust and confidence do your constituents place in you? All of this is important when considering that the same people involved in the airport situation will be making land use and zoning decisions for the next 3 years. They will be deciding the comprehensive zoning in the county. For those concerned, organize yourselves, understand the laws, understand how governance and government work in Harford County. Formulate your arguments, access your council representatives aggressively. Wishing for a better outcome will not help. Neither will complaining after it's finished. Finally, I wish you and your families and all of Harford County a Merry Christmas and a joyous celebration of the religious or secular seasonal holiday you choose to observe. To all those who stand opposed to defend our freedoms and preserve our safety, and to those who serve silently and whose service is largely unnoticed, thank you. And please, God, bless us all, everyone and each. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Ken Shannon, followed by Tammy Wainwright and Eleanor Dutter, sorry.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Ken Shannon, 2044 Park Beach Drive in Perryman. It's a hard act to follow. I didn't think I was going to be hearing about Plato's Cave tonight.
Amen.
Excellent speech by Mr. Malamo. I'm going to talk informally and extemporaneously about Turning the Tide, which is the document that 3P has produced related to environmental justice. I believe that all of you received a copy of this within the last week, and I wanted to emphasize that this is a great resource for what's going on in Perryman and Southern Harford County, which affects all of Harford County. Lee Maddox started to talk a little bit about the incidence of cancer down in Southern Harford County. One of the opportunities that emerged from this report is to make contact with the EPA, the MDE, and also with the Maryland Department of Health. And the Maryland Department of Health pointed us to the Maryland Environmental Public Health Tracking Data Portal. We looked at data inside that portal for our community, and just to go a little bit further into what Lee pointed to, we saw that cancer by all causes in Harford County is third of all 20 counties reporting in the city of Baltimore. Perryman was 8th of 49 census tracts reporting. We also found that lung cancer, Harford County reported 7th of 17 counties in Baltimore. Perryman was 5th of 32 census tracts. Most alarmingly, breast cancer in Harford County is first of 24 counties and city of Baltimore. Perryman was third of 10 tracts that were reporting. When you look further into the Turning the Tide document, you'll see there's a section in there about EJ Screen, which is a tool for merging environmental and demographic data. And what we found in Northern Harford County, and this has been spoken to by other people tonight and in other meetings, Northern Perryman is in the 95th percentile for Superfund site proximity. Ozone is in 97th percentile in Northern Perryman. Diesel particulate matter is at 82nd percentile. And along with these alarming environmental statistics, the non-white population of Northern Perryman is 82% and 90th percentile for low income. So I'm hoping that when you get time, you can look further into this document, and all it tells all of us about what's going on in our community, and maybe we can think about ways to make that better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Hold on a minute. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. Tammy Wainwright, 11 Spususha Road, Aberdeen, Maryland. Thomas Jefferson wrote that farming, rather than urban manufacturing, would more likely ensure the independence and strength of character necessary for free citizens of a decentralized republic. Jefferson, who practiced aristocratic agrarianism, used the forced labor of those he enslaved so he could be a gentleman farmer and enrich his pockets. Like many of the landowners here in Harford County, who without the enslaved would not have the wealth or political power they claim as their due today. During Reconstruction, the emancipated sought the same manner of wealth and power they had witnessed from their oppressors. They purchased parcels of land, attempting to practice Kuji Jagalia, a commitment and practice that demands that we, as an African people, define, defend, and develop ourselves instead of allowing or encouraging others to do it as has happened in the past. After the Compromise of 1877, barriers were once again put in the way of African Americans seeking self-determination in the fight for personal wealth and freedom. With Jim Crow and the implementation of laws restricting our purchasing power through documented unfair lending laws, restrictive covenants, and terrorist threats by hate groups, Harford County likes to think it was immune. But the reality is that in 1900, there were a total of 2,512 farms in Harford County. 2,315 were owned or operated by whites, and only 197 were owned or operated by African Americans. By 1925, more than 85% of the African American farmers of Harford County had lost their land. Land located on the Perryman Peninsula. African Americans of Harford County have never recovered from this. The 2017 Ag Census, the most recent data available, shows that there are no African American farmers in Harford County, and there are only 3 Native American or Native Alaskan farms here in this county. Inequality has been the mainstay of Harford County since its founding. The lack of minority land ownership, open spaces, and infrastructure in our communities continues to be an injustice. Thank you, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
My name is Eleanor Dutterar. I live at 1806 Park Beach Drive on the shores of the Bush River. I've been in that residence there for 25 years, and our family has been in residence for 99 years, and there's still only one access road. I started a Neighborhood Watch program on the peninsula in 2015, but new protocols by the Sheriff's Office in 2018 made continuing it untenable for me. I converted that effort to what I call Peninsula Concerns, which lasts today, and have dealt with illegally parked semis, notification of criminal activity, road closures, lost and found pets, and even spotted lanternflies, and more. The most frequent concern was tractor-trailer traffic on Spususha Road, Old Stepney Road, and Perryman Road. I had tried to work with the county roads and the sheriff's office to get better signs, but was told we had enough signs and there was nothing else they could do. When the sign saying no trucks on Spususha Road at Route 40 was flattened for at least the 5th time, maybe 15th time, I quit calling to have it replaced. I continue today to get calls about tractor-trailer traffic and road blockages both night and day, and our community coalition, 3P, is attempting to bring about improved signage. That alone will not stop the renegade drivers or drivers that cannot speak or read English. Most lost drivers that we try to help have that problem, and then we have a problem understanding what their problem is. What is needed are road changes and improved development designs, since increased tractor trailers will only increase the problems. The council can help. 1, convey public concerns to the appropriate executive department. 2, convince executive personnel to be more amenable to citizens' input. 3, convince executive personnel to enforce the county code. And 4, change the code. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Richardson, did you document all that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
There are no more speakers, Mr. President.
Thank you. With no other speakers, we'll move to agenda number 16. Mr. Guthrie?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a couple of things. I enjoyed Saturday night over at Quarters One in Aberdeen Proving Grounds and having a holiday reception with the Major General Robert Emerson and his wife Ellen. With the second time earlier this year with Pat Vicente and Bob Castley, we had dinner over there. So it was very impressive. Very nice place, very nice people. Also, the president of Hartford Community College was there also, and a representative from Congressman Harris's office. And one thing that he said there, he asked us to transfer to everybody, is that, and come over and employ, because they got openings on the facility. And the average salary there now is $108,000. The average salary on a PG right now, of all the different jobs, it's $108,000. So if you're looking for a job that's going to pay you $100,000, I'd go over there and I'd make an application. I just wanted to mention also about Deborah Hanley. The reason that the name was pulled is because she got out of hospital just recently with a knee replaced, and she couldn't come over. She wanted to come over and visit any of the council members that may want to interview her, and she couldn't do it. So I'm sure that that name will probably come up in the first of the year. One other issue, and I know we've heard this a lot from a lot of people over the years, and that we're not transparent, about amendments and all ahead of time. So I just wanted to run this one by you because I've talked to a couple council members, but I haven't had a chance to talk to all of them. But the issue with the hotel tax, there's this thing going back and forth because they don't think there's going to be enough money to take care of this program or that program. And so I've been kicking around a way to try to fix that so District A can have the same benefits as District E and F has, as far as a 50% and 50-50 instead of cutting us to 25. Anyway, the idea is to raise the hotel tax from 6% to 7%. Literally 99% of the county doesn't pay it, so it's outside people pay it. And I'm going to ask the county auditor to double check this for me, but I don't know if I got this right, but I hadn't had a chance to talk to her. But I believe the 1% calculates to about $650,000. 1% on a hotel bill, I mean, if the bill is $500, it's $5. It's $1,000, it's only $10. Who's going to care about paying that? And taking it to 7%, that's about the average in the state. I've analyzed all crime with all information our attorney gave me and all, and checking all the other counties in the state. The hotel taxes in all the other counties on an average is anywhere from 5% to 10%. So 7% is about, figures about average. Even give you an idea of a big county like Baltimore County, and we can change it. It's in our right to change that. That question came up. Baltimore County has changed their 3 times. They started out at 8%, and they went to 10%, and now they've settled at 9.5. Well, it's, you know, it's a big county. It's 860-some thousand people live there versus 266 here. Their 9.5% is $11 million. What's really odd about it, and it's in the record, and Councilman, anybody can look it up. What's odd about it also is it's $11 million, and 8% of the $11 million goes to hospitality, and 92% goes into their general fund. Hard to believe, but that's a fact. So anyway, I wanted to put that out there because we've had a lot of people say, well, what's the amendments? Don't put the amendments up the day you're going to vote on them because they don't have a chance. So I throw that out there for everybody to comment on it. I think it's the perfect solution for the problem we have in front of us. I think everybody gets taken care of. None of our groups out there, nonprofit groups, will lose any money because when you take the 1%, it's about $650,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you even take District A and cut it in half and keep us at 50 like Aberdeen and Edgewood is, we'll still be sending $340,000 to the county because we take in about $685,000. And I think it's going to grow with the copper mine. That makes $1 million. There's $1 million that the county will have to distribute through all the different programs that we have in our county. So I just want my council members to think that over, and the people out there, let us know what you think. That's the whole purpose of getting this up front, because everybody complaining we're putting the amendments up at the last minute, so we haven't even put this amendment up yet, but it's at least it's under discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr.
Merry
Guthrie.
Christmas.
Mr. Penman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Tomorrow, we do have an APFO meeting here in the council chambers. I'm looking forward to hearing from community members. Also, last week, I attended a school library material work group session again. I'm encouraged by the progress of that work group. I think it's a well-versed and balanced group that are all collaborating together. I also wanted to bring to light an alarming letter that was forwarded to us that was written to the county executive, Bob Casserly, from the sheriff. And it concerns the precinct. I know we talked at great length about the precinct. On September 8th, the sheriff did a MPIA request for any documentation from an MW Studios architecture. If you recall, this was the architecture firm that the county used to scrutinize the original Heat Center precinct. But in that PIA, first it wasn't filled within 30 days, which is against the law. It actually took till November 15th when the sheriff reached out to the state ombudsman to encourage the county to comply. But the county attorney then, in the email, Jefferson Bloomquist, indicated there was only unspecified reference to nearby properties. But in that email, there was a site plan. Now, this site plan was developed by the MW Studios and is projected to cost $330 million. And it has about 21 buildings on this site plan that the county is entertaining putting in our county. Now, this site plan looks like it's complete with EMS training facility, sheriff's office training facility, some training buildings, and it's like a Taj Mahal of training centers. And we would love to have a Taj Mahal of training centers for our public safety. But if we're talking about a structural deficit, how on earth can we afford $330 million for emergency operation training center, and we turn down an opportunity to revitalize, redevelop a piece of property that is county-owned for $28 million. There's more to this. In addition, we have a company that was used to scrutinize a project that was already approved by this council and again upheld through a resolution, and then using that same firm to develop the site plan for a $330 million project. I find this alarming. I think the county executive should answer to it, and I hope to have further conversation with my council members and the administration as well. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Mr. Giangiordano.
Thank you, Council President. I want to thank all my colleagues for their confidence in me and voting me for Vice President for another year, and I hope I can fulfill all the duties and do the best job possible. Again, thank you very much. I want to wish Merry Christmas to all our troops overseas. They can't be back here with their families, their loved ones, so anything that anybody can do to reach out to them or let them know, I'm sure it's appreciative. They're over there, so hopefully they can enjoy their holidays even while they're not in this country. Today I was at Menchie's Frozen Yogurt. They moved from Abingdon to Bel Air to Baltimore Pike, right where behind Chili's. So he's looking forward to being in Bel Air after being a couple years down in Abingdon. They actually make their own yogurt. They go in, recalibrate all the machines once a month in a Dannon factory. They make all their own yogurt. They have all their own cows. A lot of it's organic, so if you haven't tried it, it's something a little bit unique that nobody else does what they do, and we were able to sample some, and it was pretty good, I have to say that. Myself, Councilman Penman, Councilman Vincenti, and we substituted for Councilwoman Jessica Boyles, and did the Pickleball Factory grand opening on Friday with Keith and Kathy Rawlings, so congratulations to them. Also was at the Quarters one with General Edmondson, and of course he had to ask me about an Italian restaurant if the food was any good, and I might know a little bit about that. So I did tell him that. And then Friday night was the end of Hanukkah, so I want to wish all my Jewish people, I hope they had a blessed Hanukkah and the 12 Days of Lights, and my heart and my resolve is still with the people of Israel and in their battle over there, and hopefully they get all their hostages back. There's been some that have passed away, and you know, I'm sorry to hear that of death of anybody, but you know, the way the hostages were taken and murdered, I'm appalled at that still. So. Ms. McComas, I'm going to talk to you about the driving on the road. You're right, it's atrocious. Ever since COVID, distracted driving is the #1 cause of claims, people on phones, people texting. State Farm last year, and look it up, had a $13.2 billion underwriting loss in their auto, which resulted in like about an $8 billion loss in their overall portfolio. They're not alone. The entire industry has taken massive hits in profits with underwriting losses, and now, and for the past year or two, people are seeing that their rates are going up on auto insurance, and it's not gonna stop. You know, when you lose $13 billion, it's tremendous. Now, they can handle that, because they have $138 billion in policyholder surplus, but it certainly does take a chunk out of it, and they don't see things getting any better. So driving is horrible. People are speeding, no disregard for it. They pass all over the place. We've had people up here, and people are even passing the buses with the kids now that we have the cameras on there, but you hear about that all the time. So, and I think that's all I have. So thank you. I wish everybody a great holiday and Happy New Year's, and wanted to make sure that I got my red in for the last meeting, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. Mr. Riley?
Yeah, I have 3 Eagle Scouts from Troop 811. I'd like to congratulate Jonathan, Galvin, and Ethan. It was a Court of Honor ceremony on Saturday. Also, Ken, I didn't get that booklet, so if you can give me that booklet, I'd appreciate it. And I want to wish everyone a safe and Merry Christmas. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Ms. Bullsaddles?
Yes, thank you. Tomorrow, December 20th, from 4:30 to 9 is the Hartford County Sheriff's Office Shop with a Cop event. They'll be meeting at the Abingdon Public Library at 4:30. Kids will motorcade with the deputies to Walmart, and they will have their evening ending with a full dinner, photo station, craft station, wrapping, and each kid will be allotted $150 to shop at Walmart for gifts for their family for Christmas. So I think that's a great event, and I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Office for putting that together. Additionally, thank you all that sent Christmas cards this holiday season. That was very thoughtful, and I love reading all the messages and updates. I'd like to wish you all a safe and very Merry Christmas, as well as a healthy and happy 24. See you next year.
Thank you, Ms. Saddles. Mr. Bennett?
Hello, happy holidays to everybody. I don't know do anniversaries count as a holiday, but it's my wife and I's anniversary in 2 days.
That counts.
Okay, so 4 years. So lots of holidays to celebrate right now. It's been a busy week. We had a vehicle height monitor work group meeting. It feels like it's coming to a close. We should have legislation soon that will enable our ability to put in vehicle height monitoring systems. It's a long time coming, too long, but it's just nice to make progress. And I appreciate the members of the community who are on that work group that meet on Wednesdays. And I'm hopeful that we have legislation in our hands come January that could be introduced soon after that. Major General Edmondson had a busy weekend because I had lunch with him on Saturday at Quarters 1, and that was a really good reception to celebrate the holidays and to be with the people of APG. So that was a very good event. I also got to attend Edgewood High School's dance recital, which was a really fun opportunity. My wife runs that program. And over 100 kids up on that stage, a lot of them never having an opportunity to be in a dance studio before, and so it's a really great opportunity for them to learn dance, and so that was a lot of fun. In the upcoming weeks, I'm going to be meeting with legislators from Baltimore County and Cecil County. From Baltimore County, going to be talking about how to possibly recreate their legislation they passed recently to get vacant buildings that are a safety hazard to the community torn down. And then with Cecil County, talking with their council president about soil conservation and the work they've done to protect our highest quality topsoil from just being chipped off of the surface of the earth and sold and then lost forever in Hartford County. So I'm excited for that. Lastly, I just want to speak to, tonight's vote on enterprise zones was tough. It's an issue I've been in constant communication with the community about. From November 14th when we had the initial, and a little bit backstory, that resolution was introduced first without a committee being formed and meeting. And after my office realized that that wasn't what the code requires to be done, we were adamant with the county executive to withdraw that resolution and only resubmit it after a committee had been formed and met. And we were successful in getting that done. On the November 14th, we met as a committee. My initial response was to abstain my vote until I could get more information. On November 15th, I spoke via email with a member of the 3P steering committee who in that email said, I am not of the position that this property shouldn't get the tax credit, but would like to understand the criteria that is used to determine if they qualify, which my office at that time provided that criteria. And then after additional conversations on November 16th, I changed my vote on that committee to a yes, from abstaining to a yes. In between November 16th and tonight, I've had many meetings with members of the community, emails, phone calls, in-person meetings. I've also met with the county executive to talk about addressing the enterprise zone, fixing the issues that we have in our county with the enterprise zone, and addressing these properties that were improperly put in without committees being formed in the past. I voted tonight based on my understanding of state law, but beyond that, it's not that anything's changed. I've been very open and consistent about my communication on this. And I hope to address the issues that there are with the enterprise zone, but my vote tonight is just a reflection of my understanding of whether or not this property qualified based on the rules that the committee looked at, and so that's why I voted the way I voted.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. So comments from the president, business from the president. Basically, Mr. Penman talked about APF meeting tomorrow night in these chambers at 6 o'clock. It's open to the public. We will have members from the administration here, as we always do, planning and zoning, treasury. Also, members from the school board here tomorrow night. Citizens will be here tomorrow night. I had a meeting yesterday with school board president, Dr. Poynton, in preparation for tomorrow night's meeting. We will continue to carry on these meetings over the next several months outside of the APF meeting to try to get to where we need to be to look at certain criteria for the future. The administration, as I spoke to last week, is also putting together a committee to meet with this APF meeting, APFO committee, to try to address some of the issues in the future. And with that, I just want to thank all of you again tonight for being here, coming to express your concerns, questions. It seems like we've been together every night for the past year and a half, 2 years, but I appreciate it. I say this all the time, this is the only place in the county that you have the ability to come and express your questions and concerns to this council. So we appreciate that. Maybe not always agree, but this is the venue that you have for that purpose. And with that, I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. Wish you all a happy holiday and a great start to the new year, safe and great start. Thank you. This will adjourn this meeting.